What is going on, Swoopers? Welcome back to another episode of Swoop. In this episode, we'll be previewing the absolutely huge 1v2 match, Collingwood-Port Adelaide. Let's get into it. So we're actually going to jump just straight into it. Collingwood-Port Adelaide. Everyone has this marked down for so long, right? Ever since Port went on that winning streak after we had smashed them in round 2. So you got to think that we've already already played Port Adelaide. I know there's a guy in the comment that doesn't like me saying versed Port Adelaide. They're using the versed word. We've already come up against Port Adelaide early in the season. Round 2, we won by 70 points. We absolutely demolished them, right? And yes, Port Adelaide aren't the same Port Adelaide as they were back then. I think they lost, or did they beat Brisbane in that first game? Yeah, I think they beat Brisbane in the first game. Then we go out and smash them. They lose their next game. Then they go on that 13 game win streak. So, yes, Port Adelaide aren't the same Port Adelaide as they were in round 2 at a MCG on a beautiful, absolutely beautiful day that was. And we're not the same team that we were back then either. We have a bit more flair. We have a bit more dash. We have a bit more excitement. But beating Port Adelaide by 70 points earlier on in the season, I think does say a lot about not how this game is going to go, because we don't do that to many teams, especially to a team that's sitting second on the ladder. So I don't think that sort of thing happens again. I think it's going to be a lot closer than round 2, obviously. But it's going to be such a great test for both of these sides. Port Adelaide need to bounce back from their huge loss to Carlton. Again, they lost by over 50 points to Carlton. And then we got to prove, I guess we've already proved a lot, but it's like, okay, now we're starting to face these sort of bigger teams. This is a top 4 team, top 2 team. And if we want to go 2 games clear of first, we need to knock off Port Adelaide. And my boy Kevin, Kev's Magpies, I know he's watching, said that we haven't beaten Port at Adelaide Oval yet. So I haven't fact checked that, but if he said it, it must be true. So we haven't played them or haven't beaten them there yet, and that's where we have them this weekend. Nice little away trip to Adelaide. The 3rd time we'll be playing in Adelaide this year, and it is just teeing up to be, I don't want to say grand final preview, but I do want to say possibly one of the previews for the finals. Now, a little bit about last week. I've mentioned Port Adelaide got smashed by Carlton. Carlton beat them in pretty much every facet of the game. Carlton kept Port to 10 goals from 62 inside 50s, which is, absolutely nuts when you think of what Port have been able to do for 13 weeks. But then you look at their outs and the players they rested or the players that were sort of injured and who they've got to come back in. Now, Trent McKenzie could possibly play. Jason Horne-Francis could definitely play, and he could come straight back into the side. Charlie Dixon could come straight back into the side. So Dixon is already that big, tall marking forward who caused us trouble in that first quarter. Kicked I think he kicked 2 goals in that first quarter. That was Billy Frampton's first game for the club as well. And then you've got Horne-Francis, who has been, just absolutely proving why he was a top pick. Maybe not the number 1 pick, but proving why he was a top pick. And then Zach Butters. So there was a lot of talk about Zach Butters and what happened with him in the last quarter. He was rested, but he's definitely a strong chance to play us. So they've got a lot of returning stars. Did that really impact them last week? I guess it did, because they weren't that cohesive team that they were for the last 13 weeks. So Carlton just pounced on the chance, and props to them as well. But that doesn't mean that 10 goals from 62 inside 50s is not that good. It's not a very good return. So we are the number 1 rated defense in the league. Not letting opponents score. We've got the least amount of points against for the whole season. Scoring off turnovers, scoring off defensive chains. We are number 1 in defense for a reason. We had the return of Braden Maynard in the back line. Billy Frampton goes back there when he needs to. Darcy Moore is just having an All-Australian season. Isaac Quaynor, Johnny Noble, Nathan Murphy, unsung hero, Jeremy Howe going back. We have a lot of guys down back who could replicate what Carlton did. Do I think, that means that we're going to have a 50-point win? Definitely not. Definitely not. But if it means shutting down these players and looking at the blueprint that the Blues sort of laid out, I think it will go a long way into winning this game. Look, we know that to win games, you need to score more than your opponents. But it's not even just that. It's keeping your opponents to a low score. And that's something that we have done really well for pretty much the majority of the season. So I don't see that changing on Saturday night. We know how Port Adelaide like to play, right? They're a fast running side as well. You got the likes of Houston, Rose, William Drew as well. They all played really good. Ollie Wines, they're a really, really good football side. They wouldn't be second for a reason. They wouldn't go on a 13-game winning streak for no reason. They're a really good side. After the bye, they've dropped off a little bit, and you can see that with the Essendon game, with the Geelong game as well. The Essendon game, they won it kick after the siren. And winning close games and winning like that, we can't really say anything because we did it all last year. So they have dropped off a little bit to the dominant side that they were, towards the middle of the season. So if they're ripe for the picking, it's now. And with Collingwood, what I loved against Fremantle, and I said this in my review, is that we're starting to put together one quarter. It sounds bad to say, but we're starting to put together 1 quarter efforts. Saw it a couple of weeks ago, we put in a huge third quarter. Saw it last week, we put in a huge second quarter. Then we know our first and second quarters are really well. So we're starting to put together a huge chunk of work in a quarter and then sort of preserving the game and doing what we need to do. And that, ties in with our sort of number one defense rating. So I dare say if we are to win and if we need to beat Port Adelaide, especially at Adelaide Oval, we need to do more than 1 quarter performance. Yes, we need to start off really well. We need to end really well. We know that, right? That middle, this is the game. If there's any game, and maybe the Carlton game the week after, but if there's any game that we need to put in together 4 really good quarters, it has to be this game. Port Adelaide are going to want to prove to the AFL world, and this is just like every other team, but they're going to want to prove that they mean business this year. Ken Hinkley means business this year. So they're going to want to knock us off, right? We need to put together a 4-quarter performance. I honestly can't remember the last game where we played it wouldn't be the Port Adelaide game in round 2. Maybe you can leave comments down below. Let me know what game was the last game we really put together a good 4-quarter performance, because we can't afford against a team this good to do what Adelaide did to us. They go on a bit of a run streak and stuff like that. We can't do it with Port Adelaide. They've got too many good players that will punish you. No matter how, if your defense is rated number 1, that doesn't matter. They're still going to be able to punish the hell out of you. In regards to our sort of returning stars and what that means for the selection table, Darcy Cameron looks set to return. Brody Mychek looks set to return. Billy Frampton, he suffered a really bad corky, hasn't pulled up too well. They're going to give him until Friday and the captain's run to see if he's going to play. What happens at the selection table? And we'll talk about this in the team talk as well when that comes out. But what honestly happens? Checkers has to play. And I was going to say Mychek has to play. Checkers has to play. Darcy Cameron has to play too, because Darcy Cameron is a really good ruckman, right? Is he a better ruckman than Cox is? That's what we have to start weighing up, especially with Mychek coming back in, McStay, Ash Johnson. You can't take Ash Johnson out of the team after kicking 6 goals in 2 games. You can't take McStay out of the team because that's what we brought him in for, and you have to bring Checkers back. There's no way we don't bring Checkers back, but then are we going too tall if we have those 3, Cox, Frampton, and Darcy Cameron? So I'd hate to be on the selection committee, but I dare say, and this might be a big call, I think they drop Cox, bring in Darcy Cameron. I think we might go a little bit taller to kind of stretch Port's defense, because we should be able, we were able to stretch it at the start of start of the season in round 2. That's how we obviously got all of our goals. And, we won that game by 70 points because we were very tall up there. Because you got to remember, McStay played, Checkers played, Jamie Elliott, Taylor Adams was that high half forward as well. So we could very well see a sort of a replica of that round 2 team coming through to this game against Port Adelaide again. So I think Cameron and I think Checkers do get the call up again, and that might mean someone like maybe Markov or Bobby Hill being the sub, being that sort of super sub, and we're going a little bit taller just to stretch that Port Adelaide defense. My big call and prediction. I think this is going to be a really close game. I think we're only going to win by about 14 points. But my big call is that Checkers is going to come in and kick 3 goals. I just think it's just a tantalizing prospect, first versus second. If we win, we are 2 games clear on top. We are 3 or 4 games clear of third place. If we win, dare I say, we've pretty much got a top 2 position locked in. I know there's a lot of games to go until finals, and trust me, I'm trying so hard to keep a lid on it. But if we beat Port Adelaide, especially at Adelaide Oval, the world is our absolute oyster. We could potentially lock in a top 2 pick, and it is going to be a very, very exciting lead up into the finals. But anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. How do you think this game is going to play out? Do you think it's going to be close? Do you think, 1 versus 2? What do you think is going to happen? Let me know all your thoughts down below. But until then, like, comment, subscribe, tell your family, tell your friends, tell your best, and also next time, double shackers. I'll swoop you later.